Number 9. Unidentified Apollo light observations. Unidentified lights were reported by Apollo astronauts during missions between 1968 and 1972 while traveling beyond Earth orbit and around the Moon. According to crew communications and later interviews, small points of light were observed moving outside the spacecraft, sometimes appearing to change direction or pace relative to the capsule. These observations were noted during quiet phases of flight when astronauts were monitoring instruments or looking through small windows into deep space. At the time, the phenomena were discussed cautiously over radio channels, often framed as visual curiosities rather than immediate concerns. Some researchers suggest the lights could have been ice particles, vented gases, or reflections caused by spacecraft operations. Others point to natural space phenomena that were poorly understood during early crewed lunar missions. However, limited camera resolution and the lack of external reference points made precise identification difficult. NASA has stated that no definitive conclusion has been reached regarding these observations, and no official explanation has been confirmed for every reported instance. Because the accounts rely largely on human perception under extreme conditions, questions remain about how such environments affect visual interpretation. These Apollo-era reports continue to raise questions about how much of near-space activity remains unexplained, even during humanity's most closely monitored missions. Number 8. Sudden objects crossing cameras. Strange objects crossing camera frames were recorded during multiple space missions from the 1990s through the 2010s, often appearing without warning and vanishing within seconds. According to mission footage reviewed by engineers and later released publicly, these objects moved too quickly or irregularly to be easily classified. In many cases, they appeared as bright or dark shapes entering the frame from unexpected angles, briefly intersecting the camera's view before disappearing entirely. Specialists have noted that spacecraft cameras operate under extreme conditions, with limited depth perception and rapidly changing lighting. Some researchers suggest the objects could be nearby debris, ice particles, or lens artifacts made more dramatic by relative motion and perspective. Others point out that sudden changes in camera orientation or exposure settings may exaggerate the apparent speed or size of passing material. Despite these possibilities, not every recording has been fully matched to a known cause. Measurements of distance, velocity, and composition were often unavailable, leaving gaps in analysis. As a result, these brief appearances remain unexplained within official records, raising questions about how much activity goes unnoticed when observation windows are measured in fractions of a second. Number 7. Moving shadows seen from orbit. Unexplained shadows on Earth were reported by astronauts aboard the International Space Station during the early 2000s, observed while the station passed over illuminated regions of the planet. According to crew descriptions, large dark areas appeared to move across the surface below in ways that did not immediately match known cloud formations or expected lighting patterns. These observations were typically made during transitions between daylight and night, when contrast is strongest. Scientists reviewing such reports have suggested several possible explanations, including atmospheric phenomena, cloud shadow distortions, or optical effects caused by the station's speed and altitude. The Earth's atmosphere can bend and scatter light in complex ways, especially when viewed from orbit. However, not every reported shadow was clearly linked to a specific weather system or atmospheric model. Because most of these events were observed visually and only briefly captured on camera, detailed measurements were often unavailable. As a result, no definitive conclusion has been reached for every case. These moving shadows remain a reminder that even familiar environments can appear strange when viewed from an unfamiliar perspective, raising questions about how much orbital observation still remains unexplained. Number 6. Lights appearing to follow craft. Mysterious lights were reported by astronauts on several missions near Earth orbit, described as bright points appearing to move alongside or briefly trail their spacecraft. According to mission logs and radio communications, these lights were observed for short periods, sometimes maintaining a similar pace before fading or drifting away. The phenomenon was noted during both crewed flights and routine orbital operations, often when external cameras or windows were directed toward open space. At the time of observation, astronauts did not describe the lights as threatening, but their movement drew attention due to its apparent coordination with the spacecraft's motion. Some researchers suggest these lights may have been reflections from expelled gases, thruster activity, or nearby debris illuminated by the sun. Others propose rare optical effects caused by relative motion, angle, and changing light conditions in orbit. Despite these possibilities, not every report aligns cleanly with known mechanical or environmental explanations. Sensor data was often limited, and visual impressions varied between observers. NASA has stated that no definitive conclusion has been reached regarding all such incidents. As a result, these accounts remain unexplained within official documentation, raising questions about how motion and perception interact in the unique environment of near-Earth space. Number 5. Metallic objects near ISS. Strange metallic-looking objects were reported passing near the International Space Station between approximately 2013 and 2016 based on publicly released video and astronaut observations. In several recordings, reflective objects appeared to drift or move along irregular paths, catching sunlight in a way that suggested solid surfaces rather than gas or vapor. According to observers, their motion did not always match the predictable trajectories expected of known space debris. NASA acknowledged that these objects were unclassified at the time of observation, noting that identification was limited by camera angle, distance, and the absence of direct sensor measurements. Some researchers suggest the objects could have been fragments of space debris, thermal insulation, or components released during station operations. Others point out that sunlight reflection and perspective can make small, nearby particles appear larger or more structured than they are. Despite these technical explanations, not every case was conclusively resolved. Without precise data on size, speed, or composition, several observations remain open to interpretation. No definitive conclusion has been reached, and the events continue to raise questions about how many objects pass close to orbital platforms without being fully understood. Number 4. Bright flashes outside ISS. Bright flashes were reported by astronauts aboard the International Space Station beginning in the early 2000s and continuing into recent years. According to eyewitness accounts and onboard camera footage, sudden bursts of light appeared outside the station windows, often lasting only a fraction of a second. These flashes were observed during routine operations, sometimes when the station was passing through Earth's shadow or transitioning into sunlight. Scientists reviewing the reports have suggested several possible explanations. Some researchers suggest the flashes could be caused by small pieces of space debris reflecting sunlight at precise angles, or by micrometeoroids striking surfaces near the station. Electrical phenomena and camera sensor effects have also been considered, particularly under rapidly changing lighting conditions. However, not every flash was captured clearly enough to confirm a specific cause. Because these events are brief and unpredictable, detailed measurements are often unavailable. NASA has stated that many such flashes have not been officially explained on a case-by-case basis. As a result, these observations remain unexplained within public records, raising questions about how many transient phenomena occur around the ISS without leaving enough data for definitive conclusions. Number 3. Dark object. During STS mission, a dark, unusually shaped object was observed during the STS-88 Space Shuttle mission in 1998, while astronauts were working on the early assembly of the International Space Station. According to mission footage, the object appeared to drift slowly through space, displaying a form and movement that immediately drew attention when the video was broadcast. Its irregular outline and steady motion contrasted with the surrounding visual environment of the mission. NASA later stated that the object could have been a piece of lost thermal insulation or material released during operations. Some researchers support this explanation, noting that debris can appear unfamiliar when seen without clear scale or reference points. However, initial footage did not clearly show the object separating from known equipment, leading to confusion and speculation among observers at the time. Because the event was brief and occurred during a complex assembly operation, detailed tracking data was limited. The difference between the initial visual impression and the later technical explanation has never been fully resolved in public detail. No definitive conclusion has been reached, and the observation remains unexplained in official records, continuing to raise questions about how unexpected objects are identified in orbit. Number 2. Fast objects near Space Shuttle. Fast-moving objects were recorded during several Space Shuttle missions throughout the 1980s and 1990s while the spacecraft operated in low Earth orbit. According to NASA mission footage, small, bright objects were seen moving rapidly around the shuttle, sometimes changing apparent direction or speed within seconds. These recordings were captured by external cameras designed to monitor the vehicle and its surroundings during flight operations. At the time, astronauts and mission controllers acknowledged that the objects were not immediately identifiable. Some researchers suggest they may have been ice particles released from the shuttle, small debris fragments, or reflective materials illuminated by sunlight. The relative motion between the shuttle and nearby particles could make slow-moving objects appear unusually fast, especially when viewed against the darkness of space. However, not every recording aligns cleanly with these explanations. In several cases, the objects appeared to maneuver in ways that were difficult to match with passive debris behavior. Limited camera resolution and the lack of distance measurements made precise analysis challenging. As a result, no definitive conclusion has been reached for all instances. These shuttle-era recordings remain unexplained within public documentation, raising questions about how many transient objects pass through orbital environments without being fully understood. Number 1. Unknown phenomena during spacewalks. Unknown phenomena were reported during several spacewalks conducted across different missions when astronauts were working outside their spacecraft in open space. According to mission reports and radio communications, brief lights, glints, or indistinct objects were observed in the surrounding darkness, sometimes appearing at the edge of vision and disappearing quickly. These moments were typically recorded during complex tasks, when attention was divided between equipment, safety procedures, and the external environment. The conditions of spacewalks make observation especially challenging. Astronauts operate in bulky suits with limited visibility, while intense sunlight, deep shadow, and constant motion can alter perception. Some researchers suggest these sightings may have been reflections from tools, suit components, or ice particles released during routine operations. Others note that small debris or optical effects can appear unusual when seen against the vast, depthless background of space. Because most of these observations were fleeting and rarely captured clearly on camera, detailed analysis has been limited. NASA has stated that no definitive conclusion has been reached for every report. As a result, these spacewalk observations remain unexplained within official documentation, raising questions about how human perception and extreme environments interact during activities beyond the spacecraft.